Yes.
Namaste to everyone who has joined us via the WebEx platform and also on YouTube. I would like to welcome everyone for our 10th Nation First Dialogue series. And today we have a very interesting session on the topic of collaborative innovation, win-win for all, not a zero-sum game. I would like to firstly welcome our founder trustee, Srimati Dr. Tejaswini Ananthkumar, to welcome all our speakers and the audience that have joined us today. I would request her to kindly speak to us about the Institute AnanthKumar Pratishthana and this unique platform of Nation First Dialogues that is bringing a diverse audience and speakers from different disciplines to speak about issues that concerned nation building. I would like to welcome Tejaswini ji to take this forward.
ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ. ದೇಶ ಮೊದಲು ಸಂವಾದಕ್ಕೆ ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಸ್ವಾಗತ. It's my pleasure to invite all of you for this 10th Nation First Dialogue organized by AnanthKumar Pratishthana. Those who are in politics and in public life know AnanthKumar, who started his career at the age of 16 and throughout his life, in his college days and later, it has been always his focus has been working for the society, working for the country. And at the age of 38, he became the member of parliament of prestigious Bangalore South constituency. In fact, before that, as a state general secretary of BJP and also as a national secretary of BJP, worked for the party. Through Vidyarthi Parishad, he was an active, very active member working for the nation. And then he was a minister in Atalji's government, minister in Modiji's government. Done lot of programs, projects, innovative projects, I can say, for the nation, for the society. And unfortunately, we lost him in 2018, November 12th. He is no more with us. And he was a person always 24/7 working for the society. And in fact, he wanted to do something on the ground. And that's why he started an organization called Adamya Chetana, which many of the core members of AnanthKumar Pratishthana, I can say all of them, are the active members of Adamya Chetana, have been working for the organization from day one. And Adamya Chetana is mainly working in 3 core areas: Anna, Akshara, Arogya, and of course environment and sustainability has been part of every project of Adamya Chetana. So today Adamya Chetana, through its 4 kitchens, is serving 1,70,000 children on a daily basis. And to its credit, that it's the first kitchen probably where 100% no fossil fuel is used, no LPG, no diesel, and also created a concept of zero garbage kitchen. So why only zero garbage kitchen? Why not zero garbage dining is also another new innovation that has been very simple innovation, or a simple new project, wherein it's called Plate Bank, wherein today in Bangalore, Hubli, Raichur, many projects, they use this plate bank. It's reusable cutlery, and make sure that their events, their programs are zero garbage, non-disposable. And apart from this, Adamya Chetana has Green Sunday, as it's every Sunday we do tree planting. These are the various activities that Adamya Chetana has been doing. We, all the friends and the relatives of AnanthKumar, we thought, yes, of course, through Adamya Chetana, we will try to take forward every activity of Adamya Chetana, the organization founded by Sri AnanthKumar. But also why not we start an organization called AnanthKumar Pratishthana, wherein we focus mainly on the mainly through this organization we motivate youngsters, people in public life, basically developing the leadership qualities, because when it comes to explaining the life of AnanthKumar, we always say it's Netrutva, Kartrutva, and Vyaktitva. The personality, the work what AnanthKumar ji has done, and the kind of leadership he gave throughout his life. So, focusing these three core areas, Netrutva, Kartrutva, and Vyaktitva, we founded AnanthKumar Pratishthana in 2019. And one of its core activities is uh, we can call it as developing thought leadership. And this is the Nation First Dialogue is one of its activities, because one is the initial few year, first or second 2 years has been, we were in amidst COVID, and so we started a webinar called Nation First Dialogue. Last 9 dialogues have been on various national level aspects of the debates, wherein we involve a lot of youngsters, youth, not only youth, the senior people, those who want to contribute to the society, participate in this discussion. Today is the 10th program, 10th Nation First Dialogue. I'm very happy to invite the guests, and also on behalf of our chairperson, Professor P.V. Krishna Bhatt, and also we have some senior founder members, Dr. Vishnukant Chetpalli, who is the Vice Chancellor of Agriculture University, Agriculture and Rural Development University of Gadag. We have Pradeep Oak, we have Shri Sujit Kumar, all the uh, important core members of AnanthKumar Pratishthana. On behalf of all of them, I would like to invite Shri Nipun Mehtrotradri, for who is the founder of Agri Collaborative, and also I would like to welcome Shri Raghavan Srinivasan, senior journalist and former editor of Hindu Business Line, and Dr. Buddha Chandrasekhar, Chief Coordinator of Coordinating Officer of AICT. And it's such a great pleasure to listen from you, the experience, and also the learned member, the wisdom, the way you people have been part of this collaborative innovation, and the tagline which you all have been which we have been explaining to others, and it's such a, everybody is so enthusiastic to participate, because it's in win-win. It is not a zero-sum game. It's so wonderful to hear this, and let's all practice and take this whole idea forward. I welcome all of you. I welcome all the participants, the youngsters, the seniors who have registered for this Nation First Dialogue. I welcome all the media reporters, and those who are on the YouTube. I welcome them. Those who are in the WebEx link, I welcome them, all of them again. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tejaswini ji. So to start off the event, firstly, I would, am I audible?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So to start off the event, I would just like to bring focus to some of the main ideas that we will be discussing today. So as the title says, we will be discussing collaborative innovation. So what does innovation mean, and how can students inculcate innovation, and the intent behind which innovation should happen. These are some of the ideas that we want to speak on today. Of course, I would firstly also on August 15th, our Honorable Prime Minister also brought focus to this idea of innovation and the importance of innovation in daily life. He mentioned that innovation should start young, and it should be something that we should all think about. So I think this webinar comes at a right time, because I think the whole nation is currently thinking about innovation in this time where we see innovation in medical services, in agriculture, in various digital services. I think one of the biggest examples that we see, especially that came to use during the COVID times, is like the UPI, which is now used by street vendors, by like the digital payment methods that were both privately started and also later joined by the government, which essentially it is so surprising to say, because a lot of people who come to India today are surprised to see that people who have never educated or who are illiterate are still being able to use online banking systems and online digital payments. So these are the kind of innovations that we are currently looking at in India. So it makes it all the more important and interesting to discuss this idea of how we should take forward collaborative innovation and what all it can help in among various sectors of our economy. Firstly, I would like to introduce two of our speakers, Mr. Nipun Mehrotra ji and Mr. Raghavan Srinivasan ji. So Nipun Mehrotra ji is a technology and business leader over 3 decades, and he's the founder member of Agri Collaboratory, which he puts it very nicely, is a non-compete, not-for-profit organization, which is not just a think tank but a think and do tank, which is exactly the kind of idea with which even AnanthKumar Pratishthana hopes to work in. So Nipun Mehrotra ji has extensive knowledge on technologies and how that can be used to better the agricultural sector. Currently, his organization is working on automating farm credit assessment, which is a great way of essentially collaborating among different sectors, whether it's the financial sector, the agriculture sector, and to make every system efficient. So we would love to hear more about that, sir. Agri Collaboratory works closely with the government of Telangana, Indian Institute of Science, and various startups. So it works across along with academics, with the government as well as the private sector. So it's our honor to have you, sir. I would also like to invite Mr. Raghavan Srinivasan, sir, who is a senior journalist and a columnist. He has been the former editor of the Hindu business line. And anybody who is following him knows that he has extensive knowledge on pretty much every sector of the economy. I personally follow him on Twitter, so I know that it's very insightful to see you commenting on whether it is F1 racing, or whether it's the rail sector, or whether it's education, whether it's NEP, whether it's the budget. It's very educative for all of us to read your insights, sir. So I'm thrilled to have you discussing collaborative innovation. So I would now pass on the light to both of you, sir, and we can, I think, start off discussing. And I'm so sorry, I would also like to welcome some of the other dignitaries who have joined us today. PV Krishna Bhattji, who is the founder trustee of AnanthKumar Pratishthana. HS Nagrajji, who is the founder of BASE and now the Prayoga Institute as well. And a few more I will introduce as we go ahead. We have been joined by participants in from Karnataka, Jammu Kashmir, Rajasthan, Delhi, Haryana, even the United States of America and Singapore, Kerala, West Bengal, Assam as well. And we have a lot of students, faculty from engineering and management colleges. So I welcome all of them. And let's, I think, get started on discussing collaborative innovation.
Thank you, Vijeta. Thank you very much for the introduction. Thank you for having me. Thank you, Madam Tejaswi ji, for having, and the other trustees for having created this platform, this AnanthKumar Pratishthana, and creating this nation-first dialogues, because I think at this point in time, there's nothing more than something like this that is needed to bring different views, different aspects, different parts of the public, private, and academic ecosystems together to come in and think about how can we solve several societal problems that we have struggled with over the last so many years. Honorable Prime Minister spoke about India becoming a developed economy by the 100th year of independence. And in order for us to get there, I think we have to not only look at accelerating innovation, but also think about how should this innovation really scale and then manifest itself into real benefits for our entire population. Now, so let me start, and let me also profess at the beginning that I am not here to say that this is the right way to do it or this is the only way to do it, right? I think I will give some examples of what we are trying to do. It's an idea, it's an approach. It has been tried many times in the past, and therefore I have confidence that it can succeed. But I'm superbly confident that by coming together, we can certainly find ways to solve all our complex problems. And India has several of them, not just India, but around the world, there are several of them. But India particularly has made a lot of progress, but not yet solved things like sanitation, malnutrition, sustainability, water availability, and clean water availability, right? Pollution, climate change, and of course, complex sectors like agriculture, right? So the question is, how can innovation be applied? And it's not just a question of doing something new, which is the traditional definition of innovation, but really changing the way that we create that innovation and changing the way that we collaborate and do things differently. Agriculture itself, right, has so many complex areas. Like, for example, 85% of India's water is used in agriculture. It's a huge number, right? Barely leaving 5-10% for the cities. In spite of the fact that 50% of India's labor is working in agriculture and 40 to 50% of India's population is dependent on rural India, it still faces significant amount of labor shortages. Then it has 92,000 crores worth of food wastage that happens on a yearly basis. A huge pesticide residue issues in, and then millions and millions of small, marginal, tenanted women farmers struggle to get access to finance, working capital, right? And skills. I mean, agri skills itself is a big dilemma. So the question is, with all these complex problems, sometimes it feels daunting. How are you going to start to address some of them? And that's the reason why innovation has not penetrated some of these issues. We see a lot of startups, and the startups have remained at the periphery of a complex sector like agriculture, maybe building up platforms, engaging with farmers or engaging with consumers like you and I, and creating direct access. But we have not really solved some of the core issues. So let me therefore start with some thoughts, because many of these issues have not been solved, not because people have not tried, but because a heavily profit-oriented focus sometimes does not lead to everyone coming together and solving things for the long run. You certainly need commercial constructs, but if you have a very short-term focus, then I think it comes in the way. And the other aspect is having a very siloed, disparate, uncoordinated approach across the ecosystem doesn't lead to solving some of these complex areas. And by the way, it's not that it's not commercially viable. Agriculture today is about a $270 to $300 billion kind of a production, kind of a gross market value. And McKinsey said that just through the application of technology, you can have a benefit of $50 to $80 billion annually, right? Just by applying technology properly and by scaling some of these technological solutions, you can have a huge impact. So 270 to 300 billion is the baseline, and you can have an impact of 50 to 80 billion dollars, which is substantial, right? And that's an annual impact. So let me try and share a few charts just to help everyone with the concept. Let me and Vijayata, tell me if you can. If you can see the charts?
Yes, sir, we are able to see the slide.
All right, perfect. So let's talk a little bit about, so we are all used to public goods. We're all used to highways, electricity grids, and other infrastructure that has been created. But as the world digitized, we haven't created enough on the other side. We have not created enough digital infrastructure. Internet is a classic example of a digital public good which is created in an open space, right? It is not owned by anyone. It is self-managed and regulated in some manner, but it is really available to everyone. And it has changed the lives of millions of people around the world. The other example in the digital space is what India did with Arogya Setu. It was produced in record time, within a few weeks and months, working between the government and startups and a lot of ecosystem players. Similarly, the India Stack and UPI, and Vijayata, you referred to that, is a wonderful example of how a world-class payment infrastructure has been created literally, through extensive collaboration and at literally very, very low cost, working between the ecosystem, the private sector ecosystem, and the government. So these are examples, right? But let's try and understand, and I'll bring in Srini as well on this chart. Let's try and understand some of these terms, because these terms have been used and sometimes they get a little complex. So since we are starting to think about collaborative innovation, let's just get some of these words out of the way. And by the way, Professor of Oxford on the right, which you can see, wrote an article, and she's been in touch with us as well, saying that we cannot afford to separate business from social impact anymore. We had, up till now, companies that only focused on profits, and then the not-for-profit and NGOs which focused on providing social good. But increasingly, we need to get corporations who are profit-focused also thinking about social impact, while NGOs like us and not-for-profits like us need to also scale up and make sure that we are providing impact, right? Impact is important, not just activity, but impact in getting things done. So collaborative versus competitive, right? So collaborative is a way where we can come together. We may have a loose construct in terms of how these all of us work, you and I work, but we come together in a collaborative way. Digital public goods, which are owned by the public, and proprietary digital asset. A proprietary digital asset could be world-class, but is behind a company's firewall, an IP firewall. It is owned by a company. You have to pay, regulatory charges, and you have to license that technology if you want to use it. On the other hand, we are thinking about how can we create enough public infrastructure, digital public infrastructure that is owned by the public, right? Ecosystem is a good way to bring these things together, right? Open source versus proprietary, again, the same concept, right? Making it available. Social impact and commercial profit, I mentioned that. Srini, do you want to add your comments and thoughts with your extensive experience at this point? And in articulating some of this?
Thank you, Nipun. And before I begin, I would like to quickly thank the AnanthKumar Pratishthana for inviting me. I've had the privilege of meeting the late Sri AnanthKumar a couple of times, and the more I look at what you're doing and these discussions, I feel that he would have been the person who would have enjoyed these discussions the most and leading them from the front. We've had a lot of talks because he took a lot of effort, interest in development issues, and we had conversations about that. So this is a wonderful way to carry forward his legacy and his memory. So thank you for having us here. Yes, so I wanted to make a very quick point about why about this concept of cooperation and collaboration. There is man is inherently cooperative. We live in a cooperative society. Unless we sort of manage with each other, we cannot function as a society, right? Whether it is at the individual level, whether it is at the basic level like your housing society, or larger systems like cities or countries, states, they all depend on this. And cooperation essentially is a sort of sharing of costs and labor for sharing of benefits, and that's the basis of cooperation. But collaboration sort of takes it a little beyond that. It's not just about cooperating with each other, but actively working with each other, not just for shared benefit, but to develop the ecosystem further, so that future users benefit more greatly in this. And the point is that if you look at the stakeholders in these systems, whether it is individuals in let's take agriculture's case, whether it is the individual farmer, whether it is a consumer which all of us are who consume agricultural products, or whether it is the government, or whether it is the literally hundreds and thousands of companies who are involved in the agriculture value chain, from production to manufacturing of inputs to marketing the output of agriculture. All of them are stakeholders in the system, and all of them understand the need to sort of develop the system so that they benefit, right? Government realizes that, the farmer realizes that, the various companies who are involved in the agricultural sector, one way or the other, either as producers or users of the output, they all understand that, but they've all been approaching it, as Nipun mentioned, from a sort of individual silo perspective. One of the reasons why I got interested in the subject myself was, Business Line as a newspaper. It was known for its coverage of the agriculture sector. And when we were completing 25 years, I wanted to do something special relating to agriculture. And we actually, so at that time I was looking at what we had done in the past, and I was struck by the fact that our newspaper from 25, 30 years back was writing about the challenges which was faced by the sector. And the same stories were being repeated now, in the sense that the challenges remained. Solutions had not, some solutions had been developed, but they're not completely solved of this thing. So I was very struck by the fact that what government was saying 25 years back, it is still saying, right? But so why haven't things happened? At that time, I thought, we need to bring together the stakeholders in the system into a seminar, and that's how actually the whole idea began. And I think that was also one of the seeds for the Agri Collaboratory, because we really need to sort of come together. There is this importance of having a common objective. Now, everybody says they have a common objective. Everybody will say, yes, we have the nation's development at heart, or the sector's development, or the farmers' development at heart. But their actualized objective is more micro focused. So the challenge is really to make sure that all your, and they're important, obviously, whatever your goals, your objectives, or they're important. So the challenge is to bring together these things and ensure that the larger common objective is achieved, and that's really why we feel that you need this change in mindset, because the business as usual approach has solved many problems, but it has not really solved the fundamental challenges. And if we continue to do this way, some of the challenges will continue to remain. So we need to first and foremost, I think, have a change of mindset in the way we approach these issues. And so that was really the essence of this collaboratory. So a laboratory is for experiments and for development, but a collaboratory is where you also work together and share in an open source manner. You can take the development of open source and then benefit from it individually. That nothing stops from that. The UPI again is a very good example. It was developed as an open source digital public code. Today there are literally thousands of applications which use that for individual benefit for their organization, which is fine. I think that's the whole idea. So this is the key difference. So collaboration, it's a sort of evolution from cooperation, and even I would suggest beyond cooperation, into collaboration, active collaboration for a larger common objective.
Thank you, Srini. So let me now talk about, based on our learnings, based on learnings from a lot of other experiments around, what are the key principles that we should be looking at when we think of creating a structure like this? Because if you start well, you'll probably be able to build an institution that can last for a long period of time. And I'll talk a little bit about what and how we are trying to work in the Agri-Collaboratory, but this is a general chart in terms of bringing forward some thoughts on how we should be governing this process, and what do we promise the community, right? And how do we work with the community on that one? Because everybody has different levels of interest. Some of them are for-profit companies, some of them are the government, some of them are NGOs or individual volunteers as well, right? So for example, defining the rules of where do we collaborate, where do we compete, who can do what, etc., is fundamentally very important. Making sure that learnings are freely usable, that we are not paying or having the learnings restricted behind some firewall, right, or some behind some organizational boundary is important. Data is fundamentally important, and we all recognize the importance of data. But understanding the transparent and clear governance model, making sure that we are not violating either the individual's privacy or the corporation's business interests if they're coming forward and providing data. Thinking about funding. So very often money controls what actions you take. So how do you fund the organization? For example, in the Agri-Collaboratory, we have said very clearly that money will not influence the actions our volunteers take on the ground, right? So money has to be, or anybody supporting us has to be supporting us clearly with supporting the approach rather than the specific actions that we take. Support the outcome, but not the precise actions. And etc. And you can see some of this. NGOs have to, I'm speaking in general, but many NGOs have to improve governance standards, transparency, operational diligence, making sure that things actually happen on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, right? Just because you're working on a problem which is going to probably take you 3 years, 5 years, 10 years to solve, doesn't mean that, you're not operationally diligent on working on it. So these are some things that are important. Obviously, defining a common goal, as Srini said, getting everyone together, getting everyone to collaborate for a cause, etc., and building what we have tried to do is to create an inside-out organization. So we are not restricted by who is in the organization, because you can never hire or you can never have enough talent and enough diverse ideas just from within any one organization. So we are not constrained by what we have. We work with people around the world. So with that, let me just quickly shift gears and talk about agriculture and talk a little bit about maybe 5-7 minutes about what we are trying to do from an agri-collaboratory standpoint. And I'd love to hear comments and questions. I'm happy to engage with you. And so it's very clear that there is a lot of innovation that is needed for agriculture, both digital as well as physical. Mechanization is one example, but there's a lot of innovation that is needed. But innovation itself is not sufficient. We need to work with the policymakers, with the regulators, with the farmers on the ground, as well as all other organizations who are trying to solve that particular area. And so, as Vijeta said, we are a non-compete, not-for-profit food and agriculture think and do tank. And we have 3 basic tenets that we try and focus on. One is to make sure that whatever we're doing it with the public, private, and academic collaboration, all 3 of them together, because we need that, all of them to come together. Second, whatever we do, we're creating open source digital public goods. We will not create anything that is captive for one company, right? Or can be exploited only by one company or a section of companies. And number 3rd, I believe that we know what problems to be solved. A lot of research papers have been written about what has to be solved and how it has to be solved. We haven't got down to solving it. So our focus therefore remains on mission mode execution. Our focus is the small and marginal farmer, but we work in building an ecosystem and working with the government on structural, institutional, and policy changes. So we work with the government on one side, the ecosystem is in the middle, right? And then our focus ultimately remains the farmer, right? Srini, do you want to add anything at this point, or shall I go on to the values?
Yeah, I think just carry on, and then maybe I can come back and maybe talk a little bit about the policy challenges. Yeah.
So wonderful. So these are, and just in the context of what I said earlier in terms of the fact that we do need to define clear guidance on governance and for the community. This is our chart. This is our set of commitments to our partners, which you see on the right, and then what we ask our partners to commit to, right? And you can read it, but it's really saying that we are committed to open source. As I said earlier, we're committed to all learnings being usable by partners. We do not want to compete with anyone. We instead want to collaborate with you. If you have an idea, you have a solution, you have a technology, you have a research paper, we rather work with you to propagate it, to expand it, to work on it, to implement it, rather than trying to recreate that. We do not have the resources as a country, not just us, but as a country, we do not have the resources, we do not have the time to recreate something that has already been created. Let's get things done. That's the focus. We also recognize the importance of privacy. We are committed to that, and commercialization. I think one of the challenges in agriculture is that it has tended to be an overly subsidy-driven sector, and we need to gradually pull that in a direction which allows different players in the sector to make money. And therefore you need to think about new commercial models. And to stay politically neutral, right? We work with the government, but we do not want to, be a hostage to any one side of the debate. Our focus is the farmer and how do we get things done. And then obviously governance and transparency. We are building an institution that will outlive all of us and will and the only way it can outlive all of us is if it is well governed and transparent, right? So with that, what we are trying to do at a very, if I strip the layers, we are trying to work with the ecosystem to create public goods for agriculture. And in the process, I think we are creating an ecosystem. We are bringing together people who are committed to open source innovation in agriculture. Some of the partners you see on the right, some of them are government, some of them are not-for-profits, many of them are for-profits, some of them are individuals, and we are grateful to everybody who's joined hands. Now, our first area, as was said before in the introduction, is to work on credit. And our attempt is to see if we can use data and if we can use digital technologies to create an autonomous digital footprint of the farmer, her farm, and the crop that they're sowing, to help lenders and to help credit providers make a better assessment of whether this particular individual is worthy of lending 50,000 or 75,000 rupees, which is the average amount of money which a farmer looks for, right, as working capital to till their land and to sow seeds. We are trying to see if we can do that in 50 rupees at a cost of 50 rupees and do that in 50 minutes. So, which means that if a farmer gives consent and comes onto the platform and says, I want to raise a credit, I want to raise money, the platform should be able to take data from all these sources that you see below, whether it's an Aadhaar, whether it's a government records, or it's a private sector, whether it's satellites or IoT or whatever, and create an assessment that can be published and that can be leveraged by any financial institution. And then, as you go forward, the same farmer can get insurance with on the same platform and actually end up in selling their produce. So you enter the platform by requesting for money, and you exit the platform by selling your produce and paying back to the lender. And hopefully, we want to do it in an autonomous digital footprint that makes sense. Now, this is easier said than done. There is a huge gap in terms of between the government and what the government thinks is happening and what happens is reality on the ground. And so therefore, as I said earlier, while technology is important, we are trying to bring and work together with the government. We started with the government of Telangana. I was in Mulkanur and in Jamikunta districts, in villages, actually, not districts, villages, a couple of days back, where we are starting off with the first pilot, right? Now, and that is a collection of different people from different types of domains: data providers, technology providers, lenders, the government themselves, credit agencies. How do we all come together to solve a complex problem? And by the way, it's our estimates, but we think India needs about 37 lakh crores of working capital. Agriculture needs 37 lakh crores of working capital in a year, right? And only a fraction of that comes from the government at this point in time. So even if you look at it commercially, there's a lot of potential for banks and financial institutions to leverage this, because a bulk of that money today is coming from middlemen, is coming from money lenders, is coming against gold loans, or a whole lot of other activities, which is very expensive for the farmer, but is also a lost opportunity. So with that, Srini, let me turn it over to you. And if you want me to share, I'll share, otherwise I'll stop sharing.
Thank you. So, like Nipun said, all of this sounds very wonderful in prospect, and it also looks very easy to do when Nipun puts it out on a very simple, easy looking chart with, neat circles and connecting lines and all that. But reality is very much more fuzzy. One of the one of the big challenges really, I think, which faces Indian agriculture, and to a greater or lesser extent, virtually every developmental challenge that we face, whether it is healthcare, whether it is education, whether it is development of infrastructure or other social services. The challenge really is that, basically there is no clear overarching national purpose or plan. And there are hundreds, maybe thousands of smaller, more micro-focused, separate approaches which are being done to solve separate small parts of the problem. But we don't have this thing. We don't have, in a sense, we don't have some clear national goals. Now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, for instance, set a couple of clear national goals. One goal was to go to a 5 trillion economy by a specified time period. The other target which he announced 5 years back was to double farmers' incomes. And so, these are clear targets. These are clear targets, and these cut across. It is not doubling farmers' income for only only in BJP ruled states, or it is not doubling farmers' income only for those who support the ideology or whatever. It is across the country for everybody, regardless. It's a clear national goal. And we need to have such this thing. I think, it's important that we develop it. In agriculture, for instance, we don't have a vision document in place, right? The last one was written by the government, by the Planning Commission, in fact, in the late 1970s. And that work made a projection up to 2020. It was a 50-year projection. But it was based on historical data prior to that period, and therefore it got a lot of the predictions wrong. For instance, it assumed that India would start become a net exporter of agricultural produce only by around 2010, whereas we became a net exporter of food from the 1990s onwards. So the Indian farmer has shown again and again, for instance, that he is able to adapt much faster and respond to challenges much quicker than the ecosystem can. So I think the important thing for us is to have certain common, and this I think is a political problem as much as anything else, because our political parties across the board, they profess to share certain common national goals, but in reality, it doesn't happen. And that's why you have so much conflict between center and states, between ruling party and opposition. It doesn't matter who's ruling and who's in opposition, and which part, where you're ruling. You could be ruling in state and be in opposition at the center, or you could be ruling at the center and opposition at this thing. It doesn't matter. You're always, there is a bit of a conflict. And I think it's important to work on this, to agree to very basic common minimum national goals. And agriculture, since it is so critical to the economy and it's so important for such a large segment of the population, it's very, very important to that. And if we have a national target, we do have one. So let's take the challenge as, say, doubling or tripling farmers' income. It doesn't matter. We essentially say, look, substantially increasing this thing. How do we do it? And I think the only way is to do to leverage the capacity we have for innovation. And again, here, it's not as if innovation has not been happening in agricultural space. It's been happening for years. I mean, we had the green revolution in food grain production. We've had the white revolution in dairy farming. We've had a poultry revolution. India, from nowhere, it has now become one of the world's largest producer of chicken and eggs, right? We've had a fisheries revolution, but somehow these have all not happened concurrently, and they've not happened at the same time, and they've not had the same, if they were all, joined together as a part of a larger effort, I think the outcome would have been multiplied. There would have been a force multiplier, So I think that's one of the challenges that we as a country face. And from a policy perspective, I think that is the very first thing, and we need to have a mechanism in place. And I think this is where, I think organizations like the AnanthKumar Pratishthana who sort of, who are there in the middle, who have the ability to talk to both sides of the spectrum and have connections with both and play a very important role in this. I think, because the actual doing or solving of the problem, I think, is the lesser problem. I think the larger challenge is to get everybody to agree to solve the problem and define the problem. So you mean, everybody should define the problem in the same way. That's when you will get a unified solution. So I think that's one of the challenges which needs to be this thing. And we need to sort of somehow be able to go beyond these narrow boundaries that we have set ourselves, right? Um, like we said in the beginning, there is no harm in there is no harm in individual enterprise, individual for-profit entities. Everybody works for betterment. Whether it is for their own betterment or whether it is for the betterment of their business or for the if you're in government, whether it's for betterment for the people that you serve, right? Can we find a way of bringing these together? And that is, I think, that is the thing. And this is where I feel that the kind of collaborative approach that we are trying to take, where, from the beginning, that you guarantee that the outcome is available for all. Any development is open source and it is available as a public good and anybody can leverage it. That immediately builds the trust factor in this thing. And second, I think is very important, and this is something which is normally not talked about, is I think credit. Why do people work, right? So people work for money. That's a very fundamental, basic motive. But why do you do social service? You want to do something to improve your society, the community that you live in. But I think people are also motivated by recognition, right? And I think it's it's one of the things in our collaborative this thing is that the agri-collaboratory, we don't take credit for anything. Whoever does it, it is their achievement. Our interest is in the achievement, not in who gets the credit for it. And I think that has to be the basis for a collaborative approach. If you're talking about collaboration, I think that's one of the things that you must, you must, allow different people to not only work but also, claim the credit for what needs to be done, because they all have certain accountabilities and deliverables for different audiences which they have to make. So how do you get, for instance, the government to work with you? You may have a very interesting program. You might have a solution for a problem. And that's the same problem which the government is trying to address through its own resources and through its own department. And it would be solved much better and much faster and in a broader way if the two work together. But usually governments don't work with other organizations. Governments do what they do, right? At all levels, from a panchayat level up to the national government. The governments do what they do. How do you get the government to work together? I think these are some of the challenges that we need to work on, because even in the agri-collaboratory, what we are working on in the first use case, which is agriculture credit, it is just a demonstrator. It's a technology. It's a proof of concept that this approach can work, and you can solve a specific problem, right? And you can apply this to other problems, and we intend to do that as we go on, apply to other problems relating to agriculture. But the same template can be used to address other challenges and other issues. And I think that is the important takeaway for all stakeholders, because at the end of the day, all of us do have, I think, as Indians, we have the same commitment and the same interest in seeing our nation prosper, right? So if we can leverage that and come together to address common larger problems, I think we can really speedily address some of the many intractable challenges that have dogged us over the last 75 years of our independent existence. So,
Thank you. Back
Yes,
to
sir.
Vijita.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Srini sir and Nipun sir. I think this is actually a lot of insight, and Agri-Collaboratory, I think through this credit project has actually shown that how the mantra should, for efficiency and for large impact, must be to collaborate. And I like this. I think this message of, how even political parties need to collaborate in order for the nation to for nation building is, I think that is the key in this discussion. But I would also like to bring in Mr. Buddha Chandrasekhar ji, who works closely with the Ministry of Education as the Chief Coordinating Officer of AICTE. And he is also the creator of Indian language translation tool. He's a member of Digital Education Architecture. He is also a member of Educational Technology Forum, and the list goes on. So apart from this, he has also been a entrepreneur who has started several different organizations. So we would love to have your thoughts on this, sir, and to also throw some light on how the youngsters and how students can think of collaboratory innovation, and how what are the support systems that are required, even with regard to policy for the same.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you all, and good day to everyone. I welcome everyone on behalf of AICT Ministry of Education, Government of India. As ma'am mentioned, my name is Buddha Chandrasekhar. I'm a Chief Coordinating Officer, and my job is to make sure to give the best of the best to our students, institutions, as well as to the parents. So I'm fortunate to be part of Shri AnanthKumar Pratishthana for the 10th National First Dialogue in the topic of collaborative innovation. I would like to connect the past and current innovation dots, because our past is also very interesting from last 10,000 years. As India has a great inventions and discoveries that basically shaped this entire world, from the older civilization to the modern world. So I would like to share a couple of them to just to make sure that how we as Indians impacted to the entire world with respective of eating styles or a medicine or a religion or how we live. So maybe let me start with the ancient innovation methods. I mean, the first one, as you all know, the zero, then the decimal system, the numerical notations, the Fibonacci numbers, binary numbers, algorithms, heliocentric theory, or melting the zinc. I think, one of the greatest innovations those days. And the cotton is again another product, which basically changed the thought process of the human being, and which includes Ayurveda. And the ancient flush toilet systems first invented by Indians. Why I'm trying to push that towards everyone's thought process is that to make sure that it is not nothing new for Indians. We are already have this in our brain and in our DNA. But I think now we need to no need to reinvent the wheel. Just to take out that wheel out and just polish it so that we are back into this system. Even the rural or a weighing scale or a plastic surgery or a cataract surgery, you take a steel or a universal serial hub, which we call it as USB, or a shampoo for that, say, maybe women may like it a lot. And the complex hydraulic engineering or the wireless communication for, say, the first radio waves of wireless communication was done by Indian scientist called Jagdish Chandra Bose. Basically, he did this experiment in Calcutta in 1895. But what happened was slowly, we have basically never given an importance to our innovation thought process. This is not the recent pattern. This was happening from last few thousands of years. I think the similar kind of a wireless penetration, the invention was demonstrated by Galileo Marconi in England. And then he became very popular. What it really means is, Indians have that kind of a thought process in our mind. And now, under the Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji, we are getting this opportunity back. So now I'm planning to connect the past with the current and future thought process. Under the Make in India initiative, as you all know, that India have received more than 385 billion US dollars as an investment in last 8 years, which means India is going to become a global digital talent hub. and India is going to produce most of the goods for the across the country. And if you see the current patterns of agriculture, right, as we are speaking about agriculture, if you see in China, or if you see in Middle East, or if you see in American continents, I think the agriculture production is coming down. So we need to have more innovation methods in that, so that we can have better production, not only for our country, for across the globe. So as the government of India, our job is to make sure to empower the 32 crore students to industry-aligned innovation, research, skilling, upskilling, in the name of Atmanirbhar Bharat. So we are more focusing as a Ministry of Education, we are more focusing on innovation, research, skilling, and upskilling of not only the student side, we are even concentrating and empowering the faculty with the advanced technologies and advanced concepts and advanced industrialization policies and advanced innovation and center of excellence policies is we are implementing, so that our individual institutes will become a knowledge hubs, like what we used to have in our few years back. We used to have the traditional knowledge system based gurukulas, right? So the people from various countries used to come to our country, and they used to gain the knowledge, acquire the knowledge, and they used to move back to their countries. I think we as a government of India, now we have the dream to make sure that our education system is going to be the best of the best education system. So nurturing the startups and incentivizing the innovation at the young age, when the student in college or in school is of most important for our, in our current, So with help of the new education policy 2020, we are completely focusing on that. Along with innovation, we are giving major role and major the importance for the creativity. Because if you see the old education policy, what is the fundamental difference between these two is, we used to enable the mind only from one side. I think now with help of this new education policy 2020, we are trying to balance the both sides of the brain and empowering them in a way that they can not only be more creative, more innovative, and more research oriented, and they have that kind of a Jugaad policy where they can invent something new. I will give you the best example, the recent example, so that we all can understand the powerful, thought process of our Indians. When Corona started, none of us have masks. What our mother did, because mother is an innovator. So she tore her sari and created a mask for everyone. I think that is where the first thing started. And, then we started producing millions of masks in our country. I think, I see every individual in India, have that capability and the innovation in their DNA, in their mind. The only thing is we need to create some kind of a policies and transform our schools and colleges and universities into a technology, innovative research and skill powerhouses. This is where we are trying to, do this by using an advanced technologies and trying to push towards Wi-Fi 6, 4G Volt, 5G, AR, VR, even digital interactive videos, which we are giving it to the students and trying to, they are basically remodeling the digital entities. So let's say there is a aeroplane engine in Germany, the physical device. So we are taking a digital twin of it and giving it to our students. They are remodifying it and they are pushing it towards the back to the producers. I think, this kind of a lots of thought processes turning through and started giving more interactive and personalized content to the student. Again, as I said, not only from the student point of view, even ministry, we as a ministry, we are becoming more technological, more innovative. And we are creating a ecosystem like UPA, it is called NDF, where the ecosystem basically serves the education, skill, research, and innovation entities. So basically, we are deriving something called National Education Technology Forum, which is a platform for free exchange of ideas to use as technology to enhance learning, assessment, planning, administration, and so on, for both school as well as higher education. As you know, I was very much impressed with the previous presentation because even though I'm not an agriculturist, so I can't comment more on it. So I'm only a consumer of agriculture products, not producer. So I have little knowledge on that. But I see lots of similarities. Like we also have in NETF, it's a open source, public, private, government, academic, research, and edutech collaborative ecosystem. Because we want to give equal opportunity everyone. That's what our honorable Prime Minister says, right? Sabka sa sabka vikas. I think this is where we are completely focusing and trying to give the best of the best and wants to make sure that we will produce more unicorns. If you see in the new India, the current India, we have 94 unicorns with a total valuation of around 300 billion. Why only 94? I mean, that's a very less number if you ask me. So what I see is, let us create more Silicon Valley kind of an approaches. We have only one Silicon Valley as of now, if you take Bangalore, right? The second maybe Hyderabad, which is more a software production service house. I think, we need to have much more such kind of a innovative, ecosystem startup locations even on a remote village area, so that we can produce more unicorns and let our farmer get an opportunity to utilize this kind of innovative methods and live in the small remote villages and sell and market their goods and sell their goods across the globe. I think this is a beautiful model what we need to create in our country and make sure not only the people live in cities will get empowered. We need to empower the citizens, who is living in the rural villages with help of the technology and innovation and research. So that's where I see that, the innovation plays a major role. And as you already know, the India entered into the top 50 innovating countries. I mean, but I'm let me be very frank with you. I'm not happy with it, because if I ask you who came second and third in recent 100-meter race, no one remembers. If I ask you who won 100-meter race gold in Olympics, you will immediately tell me the answer, because everyone knows about his name, right? I think we always needs to be first, but I'm happy to share that India ranks first in Central and South Asia, third among the middle income group economies. But I think it's still not enough, because the kind of a power our youth has, and the thought process what they are carrying, and now they are not consuming the content, they are creating the content. They are even creating the content in multiple languages. I think we need to take all this into consideration, and we need to make sure that we give them a proper ecosystem, innovative ecosystem, so that they can create the best of the best products, not only for our country, for the global. So the recent, the National Science, Technology and Innovation Policy not only includes only one side of economic development, it includes the social inclusion and environment sustainability. So basically, that's what I call it as Atmanirbhar Bharat, because if only few people are getting empowered or few people are getting benefited, there is no point. I think we need to do a sabka sa sabka, because always, I'm not promoting that jargon, but what it really means is, every citizen of our country must get an equal opportunity and equal economic development, social inclusion, empowerment, as well as it is very important to protect our environment also. I think at least we are good in that side. So I see that that's very important, and this collaborative innovation is going to play a major role, because in India, one good thing what I have seen, as I visited so many countries and worked in so many countries, what I realized is in India, we have one thing called, working together. If someone makes an accident on the road, we all run and, try to help them, right? This doesn't happen in all other countries. So I think, this is the one of the best example that, we are a best of the best collaborative team. We can work together and create an innovation which is good for society, and multiple players can come together. So this is where the NEP comes into picture, the National Education for 2020. We are creating the clusters, and we are creating a spoke and hub model, so that the innovation will happen in one area and that can get distributed to all other nearby schools as well as to the institutes. And the same students can visit to the hub center and they can learn more. I think this kind of a policy is what we are coming up with, and I'm sure that the collaborative innovation will be a game changer for our country. And I request everyone, let's all work together as a team India to make our country as an innovation capital of the world. Thank you very much. If you have any questions or concerns, I'm happy to answer. Thank you very much, and namaste. Hello. Ma'am, I'm done. Hello. Ma'am, I'm done, ma'am.
Hello. Yes, yes, sorry, there was a minor lag in the end. Thank you so much, sir. I think that was I think, very motivating insight for especially all the students and engineering students who have joined here today, to know both about the potential our country has, and to see the fact that, the central government is now recognizing the need for innovation to be inculcated in. Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
I just want to add one point, ma'am. When we are visiting schools and colleges, what we are focusing, we are saying, don't create a technological solution. You create a solution for our MSMEs. You create a solution for our farmers. You create a solution for our senior citizens. You create a solution for women. I think, we are trying to, because, Indians became more technology centered than a problem solvers. So what we are motivating and guiding them and mentoring them, saying that, your solution is to be for a social good. So that is where we are focusing, and we are motivating and driving them. And I'm sure, and I'm very confident, because our next generation, which I call it as aliens, because they are super smart. I mean, trust me, if we can guide them in a right way, they are the one who is going to rule this world. They are super smart human beings, and they born with internet, and they born with 4G technologies. And I have a 6 years old kid. I'm not able to answer his questions because the kind of a thought process they have, it's much more in a very higher spiritual level than us. I think all we need to do is put them in a right direction. But the right direction I see is that, as our honorable late President Abdul Kalamji said, by 2025, the biggest market in the world is agriculture. I think if we can protect and if we can increase our agriculture yield, I think we are going to be a Vishwaguru, because that follows the rest. I think if you see the American history, right, or the Chinese history, both started by producing more in the agriculture, then they slowly move towards a product creation. I think India is also doing the same. I think we need to balance this act in a right way, so that we will achieve this goal in a lesser period than America as well as China. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, absolutely. I think, having said that, I think we would also really want to take up several questions that have come in for all the speakers. So I think, to start off with one question, that is, agriculture is arguably, I'll just read it out. Agriculture is arguably among the most complex and fairly unorganized fields. Beyond financial aspects, what are some of the other areas that you see collaboration, innovation is getting adopted or is required, especially those that which involve the movement of goods and people? Um, that's a question that has come in, sir.
You want me to respond to that?
Yes, sir.
Right?
Yes, sir.
So access to finance is certainly one of the most important. So is access to markets. And if you can solve access to money and access to markets, I think you've taken care of a large number of issues within agriculture. But so is equally important is worrying about water sustainability, water usage as an example, reducing the amount of water used. Some of our crops, we use double the amount of water per ton as compared to global averages. So how do we, reduce that? Then skills, I mean, and the earlier speaker as well mentioned about skills in a broader context, but agricultural skills is a huge area that we need to think about. The question was also on logistics, and integrating supply chains and logistics is an important area as well. Those are some areas that we would like to work on as you go forward, and see how can digital public goods be leveraged for some of them.
Sir, I would like to add, Nipunji, if, I mean, based on my understanding, maybe I'm not expert in agriculture, but our food production, is getting wasted because we don't have a proper storage capacity.
Yeah.
So now, if you see, right now, slowly government of India is taking charge of it and slowly trying to solve that problem. But having said that, we need to have a proper supply chain management system, because I belong to a state called Andhra Pradesh, and my in-laws' place is towards Ananthapuram. So when I go towards Kurnool, right, I see they are throwing the tomatoes on the road. I feel very bad. I think, I still remember that in my memory, because imagine how much time it takes to produce the goods. And at one point of time, the cost of the tomato is 150 rupees per kg. And the next day, it is just 2 rupees or 3 rupees per kg. So I think we need to have some kind of a storage capacity systems where we can preserve all this, maybe the mini storage capacities, not a huge ones. So the mini smaller ones which can be within the 6 lakh villages. So why don't we have 6 lakh small storage devices which can basically solve this problem to some extent? I mean, maybe I'm not an expert in it, but I just thought of sharing.
You're absolutely right. And some of that can be helped by predicting the price of a crop at the district level a month or 2 months before the harvest season. If you could predict, for example, that in Kurnool, in that district, the price is likely to come down to 2 rupees, then with concerted effort of the local government, other private sector bodies, etc., you can do something. You can even, for example, stagger the harvesting or advise the farmers to stagger harvesting a little bit if you knew that that's what's going to happen. Now, so data and digital platform, that's an area that the same technology that we're working on for credit can be used for price forecasting, can be used for insurance, can be used for a variety of other purposes. It's a question of understanding what is likely to happen and then being able to act on it. But your point is absolutely valid. Vijeta, back to you.
Yes, absolutely. I think Tejaswini ji has a comment. She just sent me a message that she would like to add something to this.
Yeah, it is. In fact, I was just wondering, why can't we, like in so many years, we're not able to create a platform, especially for farmers like Shri Nipun Mehrotra ji was mentioning, that we are dependent on farmers. More than 60% people are there, 50% are there, and why not we create a platform wherein from soil testing to availability of the tools to the farmers to seeds, fertilizers. Of course, many of them are highly subsidized, but at the same time, there's a question mark whether we are able to reach out to the farmers in a real sense, and also just making available that 20,000, 40,000 rupees to the farmers itself has become still a big challenge. That's why it is, even today we hear so many news about the suicide of the farmers for just 1 lakh rupees or 50,000 rupees, which is so unfortunate. Why not create a cashless or a seamless platform from soil test to marketing, to reaching out their produce, whatever it could be, 2 quintals or a bigger quantity, so that he doesn't get into the whole this thing, and also the research and the local geographical studies and all those things also can be part of that platform. Was that I was just wondering. Again, I have little knowledge about agriculture, but not an agriculturist, but I thought this is highly required for a country wherein people are quite proactive. A farmer, I'm sure, can use all these digital technologies. For him, he can definitely use it, and only what is the requirement is making available the wisdom and also the technological platform. What is your comment on this, Nipun Mehrotra ji? I would like to hear from you.
Tejaswini ji, your point is absolutely valid. By now, we should have had platforms. We should have multiple platforms. But I think from my context, there are 2-3 reasons why it has not happened. Number one, it is impossible for any one organization to create a platform like this, whether it's a government or it's a large private sector corporation, right? None of them have the capacity or the capability to create this just by themselves. The only way to create something like this is by doing it together, which is why we started this, because we see the results of the fact that we do not have a platform. That is very obvious. The example that Buddha also mentioned earlier, which is that tomato was thrown on the roads. That's an example of the fact that you do not know what is happening where. You don't know how much of tomato is being sown, for example, at a district level or at a state level, etc. The second reason why some of this doesn't happen is because it can't happen with us or anybody trying to create a mega platform right from the beginning, from day one, and thinking that, you know what, in 5 years' time, that platform will be ready, and then the problems of Indian agriculture would be solved. In 5 years' time, the platform will be obsolete by the time you launch it. Right. So we believe that the only way to solve this is by the ecosystem coming together, which is the government and public and private and academic, number one. Number two, taking one small step at a time, keeping the vision as a long-term, larger vision that you want to have an integrated platform and you want to work on several aspects at the same time. But by starting off with one step, solving one problem, then going to the second problem, going to the third problem, and eventually you will get a platform. Like, for example, we were working on credit, and I was with the government of Telangana just 2 days back, and they said, but we also should connect that to insurance. I said, absolutely right. Once you've got the basics of the platform going, you can extend it to insurance, and you can also extend it to the markets, right? But if I start by thinking that I'm going to create everything from day one, it's not going to happen, because agriculture is complex. Agriculture has got so many different aspects to think about. Again, not just the center and the state, but so many different agroclimatic zones. Every crop is different. Every issues of rice is different in Telangana versus rice is different in Punjab.
Yes, I agree with you, sir, but maybe it can be looked at district level, because now we look at the flat system wherein subsidy is given to all the farmers of the country across, like whatever they grow, something like that. Maybe definitely, like it's a very, very complex thing, but somebody has to, like you said, multiple organizations have to work towards that. Just to give an example, because I am into midday meals and we cook for such big numbers. I approached, because every menu is different and the requirements vary. So and the purchase process is too tedious. And in fact, I took help of one Yojak Solutions. They came out with some interesting platform for us, wherein from purchase to delivery, it was so nicely, seamlessly designed, and that's just looking at that. And in fact, they took hardly very little time. So I am sure our engineers, and we have quite an intelligent team. Only thing is, maybe we can look at one district or something like that, and cover almost 90% of the farmers, and then take it to other, because I've seen couple of societies doing it. They need not have to pay even 1 rupee. The farmer has will be given a card. He can buy all that. So that card takes once he becomes a member of that society, it takes care of everything, from purchase of the seeds to selling, and even if he has to buy his other groceries for his house, also can happen. Cashless facility. There are some things working. Of course, better. We have to, but government especially, has to seriously look at it. Is what I think, using the district level authorities. Yeah. I think Dr. Indrani Vijayata,
Yes.
Dr. Indrani
Yes.
has raised some question.
Yes.
She's
So I was
there. I
just
think she's there in the WebEx team. You can,
yes. Okay.
if you can enable her to speak,
Okay, sure. So we have Dr. Indrani Suryaprakash with us today. So she also has a question with regard to the agriculture sector and some innovations that can potentially address some of the issues with regard to pre and post harvest. Ma'am, I would request you to please ask your question, if I may unmute you.
I think you can read out the question, Vijay.
Sure. I'll just read out her question. Yes, ma'am. I think we can hear you. Yes.
Yeah, before any innovation starts, like I think actually to identify the problem or problem statements in the agri sector becomes an important factor. Be it, we face a lot of things before pre-harvest and post-harvest cycles. So I think students should be given priority for identifying the problem before, like a step towards innovation really happens. Because I think India being a biogeographical zone with lot of climatic, conditions varying at all local levels. So I don't know, like in each of these states, students should be encouraged to actually identify the problems within their own, local regions. And I just wanted to know the comments from the experts on this particular thing.
Thank you, ma'am. This is very interesting question because that's what the Smart India Hackathon do. Basically,
Yeah.
we have collected the problem statements from various industries, including agriculture, and we have given those problem statements to the students. And
Yes.
we have asked them to come out of the solution, and that's where as I said, they are just next level of human beings. That's what we realized. I mean, the kind of a solutions they come up with. Even one of the solution I would like to share here, which Honorable Prime Minister ji also quoted 3 days back, that till now, as you know, the transmission of the police happens, with the mics, right? They speak, and it basically transfers the data from one place to another place in a textual format, where they can hear. So now they are coming
Yes.
up with a solution which can not only transfer the text, it will transfer the image as well as the video using the same frequencies. I think see the kind of a thought process, which we never even thought of. So we have given the problem statement saying that they are able to only send the message from one source to destination. Can you please solve it? They have come up with a solution where they can not only transfer the better data, they are going to transfer the data including the image format and video format. I think this is the power of our student community, and we are
I agree with that.
trying to
I
take
agree with you,
all
sir.
problem statements to them and trying to get the answers from them. Having said that, mentorship is very important. Example, as now I see, lots of today I learned a lot about agriculture, from Nick Punji and others. So I think, we need to connect them so that they can guide
Yes.
this young generation and take them to a destination. Because as the younger generation always tries to deviate from one point A to point B. I think the mentor will help them and they try to control. But having said that, the answer is yes, we are giving such problem statements, including the agriculture sector, to the
No,
students.
I'm aware of it, sir. Like some grand challenges and things are also there, for the problem statements that they have created. So, funding support is also created, right? Yeah,
Yes.
so I think the more students should be drawn towards this. Of course, in the digital world, this is happening, but not in the, with respect to the agricultural students. So that is where, they can identify the problems related to crops or productivity. As I said, like maybe pre-harvest or post-harvest cycles and all that. Yeah. Thank you very much for your answer.
I think we are on the basic level on the agriculture side. I think we need to have more innovation methodologies and more people to involve and take this agriculture as a very serious business. I think it is not an individual thought process. I think collectively, if we all can work together towards innovation on the agriculture, that will translate our country into a developing nation to a developed nation, because that's the core. This is a pillar for any country per se. So I think I completely agree on with your point.
Yes, thank you very much.
One of the things
Thank you.
Chief said in the beginning is that yes, we are trying to work on agriculture, we are trying to work on credit, but we are also trying to innovate the way we innovate. I think changing the way that we drive innovation is as important as working on a specific problem. So actually, I see the future ahead as the ecosystem-led approach to solving problems as fundamentally very, very critical for India to overcome the challenges that it has.
Yes, sir, absolutely. I think
With everyone's permission, I have another meeting.
yes, sir. I
Thank
just
you
wanted
everyone
to.
for-
Yes, sir. Yes, Buddha, sir. I just wanted to thank you and display this memento to you that we will be sending to you, sir. That's-
No, I want to thank you because you connected me today and I learned something new, which I don't know. I think this is the way we all needs to be open our minds and learn what we don't know and share the knowledge what we have. I think this is going to be a secret sauce for our country. And let's all work together. And I thank everyone and namaste to all.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Nipun, sir. I think with also concluding with this discussion.
Vijeta, I'm sorry. I think we had wonderful discussion on agriculture and agri innovation. But of course, a lot of things to be done in medical field as well, because one side, like what Dr. Buddha was mentioning, we inherit such a long history. So many things were known to us from plastic surgery and all that. At the same time, when it comes to today, we are all on the totally everything is on allopathy medicine, and we are not able to connect between these two and bring out with new innovations. Hardly very few things happening in other areas as well. So I think that needs to be looked at, because we are more and more into application, implementing it in the day-to-day line than innovation. So maybe a couple of minutes on that. Sri Raghavan Srinivasan also can definitely throw more light on this. Uh,
Thank you.
Innovations in other sectors.
I think,
You're not
You're on
audible,
mute.
sir. Not audible.
Mute, Srini.
Yes. You're on mute.
audible now?
Yes.
Okay, I took out the headphones because I think it's creating some problems. We have huge, I think, challenges, but we have also have had even recent examples of, you mentioned healthcare. So one very good example is how we managed to develop our own vaccine, and that was through public-private cooperation, right? The virus itself was isolated in a government laboratory, but it was a private organization which managed to develop the inactivated vaccine. So I think and in record time. So I think the point is that the COVID pandemic at that time, we thought it was a civilization threatening problem, and somehow we managed to put aside differences and work on a solution, and we came up with a solution. The challenge, I think, for us is to do so when the threat doesn't seem so imminent or dire. So how do we sort of reach, for instance, the challenge of reaching basic healthcare to the poor, to the remote interior areas. So telemedicine is part of the solution only, because beyond a point somebody has to be there physically to deliver this thing. Sometimes it's early diagnosis, but we have come up with our own solutions. I think that the problem is that we don't. I think we like. Dr. Chandrasekhar pointed out, we don't remember our own history, and sometimes we forget our own achievements. I would, look at the ASHA program, the health worker program, where rural women are trained to, give basic, particularly for during childbirth, to reduce and infant mortality. India has had one of the sharpest reductions in the world in infant mortality. How was this done? It was started as a small, effort by husband and wife team of Gandhi and doctors in a tribal area near Nagpur. And they started training tribal women on two simple things. One was to how to take the pulse, of the mother and of the infant if it is still inside the womb, and how to count it, and how to take temperature. And simple intervention. They said, okay, if the pulse rate is below this or above this, you know, try do the temperature is above this, you give this whatever basic medicine. 2-3 simple remedies were tried, and that worked remarkably. And then they found that because the results were visible, then the government also realized that it was a simple solution to actually train the village women themselves. And we have had a traditional history. In fact, childbirth, in our villages, always there was a village midwife, who is to take care of the, this thing. And then if you could train that person a little bit to watch out for warning signs where it might become necessary to have higher order intervention. So then at least spot the problem early enough so that say, no, I think there is a complication here, you better go to the health center or go to the nearest hospital. Even that much can save, lakhs of lives. So I think, and we have done it, and this has done it now. We have more than 8 lakh ASHA workers in this country. In a period of just 10-15 years, we have trained so many people. So I think, the point is, and as I mentioned this earlier, that, I think we need to identify the big issues, some of them, but break it down into small, addressable solutions. Sometimes we fail because we tried too many things on too wide a canvas. So simple thing, just train women to take pulse and temperature, give them one crocin drop, give them 2 medicines in hand, antibiotic and this, and say, if you see this A, B, C indication, you give this medicine. If you see D, E, F, you give this medicine. If you can't tell if there is a problem, then go to the doctor. Even that, if you take the decision to go in India, and even today in villages, people think that going to the hospital is going to die. People are taken only when they are seriously ill, whereas a little bit earlier, if you went for treatment, you might be able to save a person. So simple interventions, break it into bite-size problems, because that's the only way you can scale it. If you try for massive interventions, it becomes sometimes, and this is where technology comes in. So you bring in technology and digital innovation from the top to do these sort of scale level innovation. And at the execution level, you take it into small bite-sized chunks and this thing. So for a problem, let's go back to the tomato example. The problem is, one was price forecasting. You can definitely use technology to forecast price based on output. What is the demand? What is the cost of transportation? Because for instance, in business plan, we found that a simple solution of sending price information in various mandis up for a farmer, anything beyond 200 kilometers is irrelevant, because it costs too much money to take the produce beyond that distance, 150 kilometers or so. If you in that radius, if you give the price of a particular product in a mandi, different mandis, they can decide, okay, in this mandi, because there is a glut, there is a sudden, excess production in a smaller area. There, the trader might be offering less, but just 100 kilometers away, double price is available. All he has to do is hire a lorry and take it there. So then there are simple solutions which we can use to address this thing. So, taking bite-sized, breaking it down into smaller problems, execution, and then see who's at the end, because there's no point making grand plans if the execution is, nobody is responsible for it. Who's at this thing? I think we need to look at it that way. Technology you bring in to leverage through larger scale level problems, and execution. I think, and again, this is a collaboration. You cannot bring about change unless everybody is involved in the change. In TB treatment, and this is an example I've seen myself. TB treatment, one of the reasons why India has got the highest level of resistant TB in the world is that government gives the medicine free. It doesn't cost any TB patient 1 paisa to take treatment. but still we have so many people still dying of TB and also resistance. Why? Because they stop taking the medicine. They will collect the medicine but not take it. So having a simple, somebody developed a basic WhatsApp-based solution that you have to every day send a photo of you taking the pill. That's it. And then they see the pictures and say, all right, he has used up 17 doses, now he is due for replenishment. So another message will go not only to the patient, but also to the panchayat, and the health worker of the village saying, such and such TB patient's medicine is expiring in, stock will run out in 10 days. They have to go there, and there is a challenge, they have to go 50 kilometers to collect the medicine, but at least the alert is given in time. So simple solutions, I think, are available. It's a question of collective will in applying them.
Yes, sir. Thank you for actually very interesting examples. I think one of the questions that has come in, which is connected to what you were saying, sir, is how do we improve collaboration, innovation, and collaboration mindset in the society? Is question that has come up.
I think people, when they realize this thing, it's a question of also coming out with the right model. For instance, again, you take agriculture or rural development. For 50 years, we have been trying the cooperative model, right? So particularly for rural areas, the cooperative model, government itself said cooperative model works better. So, cooperative banks, cooperative institutions were set up, but they have largely failed to achieve the purpose because they're not true cooperatives, right? So now people have themselves come up with alternatives. And one very good example in agriculture is the farmer producer organizations. So you take, several small producers, but you combine them in one entity which tends to behave like a company, not an individual farmer. So then they negotiate bulk rates for inputs, fertilizer, seeds, irrigation facilities, so on. They negotiate bulk rates for even equipment, hiring tractor or a harvester or whatever. At the same time, they are able to aggregate the product, in one place so that transportation costs are reduced sharply for each individual small farmer. And the farmer producer organization model appears to be working better. In fact, Nipun, I think, we are working with an FPO in Mulkanur, and it's a very, very successful example. And this innovation was developed by the farmers themselves. Maharashtra, I think they were the first people to come up. They are a little progressive. The cooperative, they extracted the juice and then they realized it's not really serving their interest and they moved on to the next model. And others are following suit very quickly. So across the country, this wave is happening. So I think a key part of the solution is for people to come to the realization that unless we get together, we cannot solve our problem. And that must happen. And sometimes that's a painful lesson to learn, right? You have to try and fail at other things. And once that lesson is learned, I feel that the biggest roadblock in solving that problem is overcome. That is for the one set of stakeholders. But for others, for the government and all that, I think it's a question of communication. People also, I think, don't often talk to the government because they are afraid to or they don't know whom to talk to. And government doesn't talk to anybody because they don't see the need in many cases, and in some other cases, they don't know whom to talk to. So something like the collaboratory, if you can just even providing a platform to bring, like your Pratishthana, if you can bring together people, talking becomes the start of the solution. So collaboration happens only when people realize that the outcome of that collaboration is of mutual benefit. And that realization has to happen through experience and perhaps failure in some ways, or by seeing the success in other places, right? So if you see an FPO is a successful model, other people start working. And then one day realize that if we can have an FPO only for crop output, why not try something similar for other things, right? So, if you look at Indian innovations like this Ola and Uber and all that, so then that same approach can be applied for hiring, say, agricultural equipment. Everybody need not own a tractor. You can have a tractor in one area and people can rent it, just like you rent a car to go from point A to point B. So I think these solutions are doable once you see the benefit, and it's also important to communicate, to talk, to share the problem, and for the stakeholders to understand that, yes, I mean, everybody has got an interest in solving this problem. Once that becomes a little clear, people automatically start collaborating.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, sir. I think thank you for summing up the idea that we discussed today. I think I would also like to call upon, firstly, I would draw attention to the feedback form that has been put on in the chat section of the meeting, as well as on the YouTube comment section. So I request everybody to please fill it up so that we can make these dialogues even more interactive and better in the following sessions. And I would also like to announce that all the certificates for all the people who have attended the event, the certificates will be distributed within the next 48 hours. So I would lastly, to sum up and give the vote of thanks, I would like to call upon Mr. Hanuman Mangolli ji, a specialist on safety critical systems in space and automotive sector. He has been an active part of and is a core member of AnanthKumar Pratishthana. So I would like to pass on the mic to you, sir.
Sure. Thanks, Vijeta. Am I audible to the audience?
Yes, yes.
Okay. I'm not sure whether I can start my video because of the bandwidth issues. So let me do the honors for the vote of thanks. I mean, the discussion that we had in the last 1.5 hours reminds me of an ex-colleague that I had in my ISRO days. So his problem statement used to be for his the next generation youngsters. You should be able to take a walk on the street and come back and having identified some problems that needs to be solved. So not identifying a problem is the biggest challenge, was his statement. Once the problem is identified, which can take care of some of the societal or something on the street, some garbage related or street related. So not identifying the problem is the biggest challenge, was his statement. So coming back to the sessions that we had, if at all the audience needed some trigger on getting into problem solving through innovation, I think we got a good dose of that in today's the three speakers provided that. Specifically, Sri Nipunji and Sri Raghavanji, together they elicited the initiatives from the TAC on how some of the challenges in the agricultural sector, especially the small farmers or the marginalized farmers, some of the challenges that they are facing. Probably they have started just with the credit for now, but with the huge amount of data that is being collected, more and more problems will be attended to and solutions will be provided. Sri Buddha Chandrasekhar ji took us through the a 2-minute history on the 10,000 years history, where India has contributed through its innovations and inventions to make this world modern. But somehow in the modern world, India is feeling left behind, and I think it is time for us to reignite those processes which have made us leaders in the earlier times. So thanks to the three honorable guests for sharing their thought processes. Thanks are also due to the AnanthKumar Pratishthana and NFT leadership, specifically Chairman Sri P.V. Krishna Bhatt-ji and Srimati Tejaswini Ananthkumar ji, for providing this platform for sharing the ideas, and where the leaders, thought leaders and audience can gather and discuss the problem statements. Thanks to the other dignitaries and patrons who spared their valuable time and participated in this event. Vijeta ji did a wonderful job for comparing this event for the last 1.5 to 2 hours time frame. Thanks also again definitely to the large audience who participated both on the WebEx as well as on the YouTube platform, enthusiastically put up their questions, their queries that they had for answers. We had a behind the scene NFT think tank who have been working on ideating on the themes and all the coordination effort that went in making this event happen. Sri Pradeep, Raju Banerjee, and Sujit ji, so some of the members from this think tank. Thanks also definitely to the the background support team for their outreach to the large audience, getting the registration, sending out the links. So they did a wonderful job too. Before we close again, as Vijeta ji just reminded, please fill out the feedback form. We would like to definitely collect your ideas and where we can improve further on these events. Please await our next session on the NFD series. Details would be shared in the coming days as we work on the next one on this series. So thanks again to one and all for this, making this event successful. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. I would like to also display Raghavendra sir's memento here. We would be sending it to you, sir. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts on this platform. Also, Nipun sir, thank you so much for sharing your valuable time with us.
Thank you.
Giving us an insight on agriculture sector and technology. I would like to thank everybody who have attended the session and everybody who's worked backstage. Thank you so much for the.
Thank you.
Thank you.